Peterson video put out 9 hours ago or something. I mean, but he looks older. I don't know. Is this old or is this just he's not in a wacky suit and it doesn't look highly processed. So maybe it's just a real upload. Everything looks dated here. The dilemma of successful women is what this is called, which is also a dated notion, of course.
Look at what's happened to the situation in women since 1970. That's changed so fast that people can't even keep up. It's not obvious, by the way, either that it's been particularly good for women. Now, you could make a case that it was good for society, maybe. It's a tough one, because the birth rate has plummeted.
Birth rate is not how we measure the well-being of a group of people. Birth rates go down in developed countries. This is normal. Birth rates go down for a myriad of reasons. A lot of it has to do with education and usually less sexual violence because you have more strict laws. But even then, of course, the sexual violence doesn't stop. Men gonna men if they can help it, especially in these kinds of cultures. You know, access to contraception and birth control and just other methods of preventing pregnancy. You know, more autonomy, not needing a husband or whatever to, like, exist is very, very good. And these right-wing men, like Jordan Peterson and the people that he peddles his bullshit to, they're all of the notion that, like, as a man, they have to get wives. And the women that they're encountering are rejecting them. Not Jordan Peterson, obviously. He's married now. But a lot of the guys he talks about and talks to don't have wives and don't have girlfriends because, you know, they're Jordan Peterson fans, right? They are just learning to be antisocial. And that's really what it's coming down to. Like, right-wing politics is a lot of things. Like, there's misogyny and patriarchy and capitalism involved with a lot of it, or racism. It's all bad. But worst of all, it's just fundamentally antisocial. It just doesn't provide a solid society. You see this in Israel, right? Like, it's just turmoil there.
My corn is so moist that it's actually dripping.
I didn't think it was possible for my lady bits to get drier looking at a man, and somehow every time JP opens his mouth, wow, thank you for the update. Appreciate it.
And so, you know, maybe you don't care about that. Maybe you think there's too many people on the planet already, whatever. But, it isn't that easy to figure out when something is working properly. One of the things we seem to know, is that to the degree that rights are extended to women, economic prosperity follows. So you can see worldwide that the societies that have extended the rights to women most extensively are also the societies that seem to be flourishing economically.
So, I mean, like adding more people, more consumers, for instance, and workers into your consumer and workforce-based economies is going to do that, yeah. That's just how it works. Can't believe we let the women folk join us and participate in society, and then society did more societying. Yeah, man. Of course, they're society too. What a male-centric viewpoint.
And there does
half of all the people are women. That's half of them. Obviously, he doesn't grant them full personhood. They're people, sure, but they're women first.
Seem to be a causal relationship. But women have paid a big price for that. So what's happened in part is, first of all, for say, women who are middle class or lower, their lives have essentially fallen apart because marriage is now restricted to the rich, which is also something to think about for those of you who think marriage is an oppressive patriarchal institution. It's like, okay, then why are only the rich people getting married?
Because of the oppressive patriarchy that is the billionaire class? It really, I mean, Reaganomics is a big part of it. You know, the trickle-down economic system doesn't work. The Southern strategy, fuck this, to try to enshrine it in a lot of places, right to work. There's lots of problems with the American system, and just the Western system in general. So it's not only rich people getting married, but it definitely is reserved for, like, people who have any money, unless you go to the courthouse or whatever. Like, you can get eloped. You can get married for pretty cheap, but man.
They're oppressing themselves? I don't think so. And so the women who are in the lower socioeconomic stratas are suffering madly. Because
of marriage? So they're suffering because of capitalism and the effects of patriarchy as it intersects with it? But, like, it's not like distinctly because of marriage. Women don't necessarily want to have to depend on a man for their well-being, you know? Like, it doesn't feel good. And so are their children. And they have terrible jobs most of the time, like jobs in retail where, they're called in
every day for the next day. They don't have a schedule that's set out ahead of them. They get paid.
Wait, how much vetting even goes into getting married? Do they just like take your IDs and go like, you guys want to get married together? ID. Okay, here it is. You're done. Is that it?
Very badly. They've got kids to take care of. And so they have no free time. It makes them really easy targets for useless predatory males. And it's really hard on the kids. And that's like 40% of the female population, something like that. And you guys, well, I don't know about all of you.
Some states make sure you're not related. Oh, well.
But you're in university.
Safe.
You're part of the privileged cognitive elite, So these sorts of things don't really touch you the same way they touch other people.
What do you mean forms? Like just the marriage forms? Depends on how the jurisdiction. Some places require premarital counseling as well as DNA tests. Wow.
And so women are much unhappier if you look at national polls than they were, say, in the late 1950s and early 1960s. And I think that's partly because freedom and happiness, those are not the same thing. They're not even close. And I see young women all the time struggling to figure out what to do with their lives because they have no idea how to have a job/career and a family.
It's the women freaking out. So nobody knows how to have a job/career and a family. Nobody does. Everybody has varying degrees of failures at these two things because capitalism and the daily grind, it's just too much, right? Like 40-hour work weeks are too much to have like quality at-home time. If you want to opt into something like that, it's fine, but I don't think that you should have to work that much to make a living. That's fucking crazy. I would be absolutely shocked to find out that we really fucking like need more than 25 hours a week from like the workforce in general to get what we need done. Like I really don't think we need more than that. What we probably need is we'll see certain places that are stressed and don't have enough workers. Healthcare is definitely one of them. But a lot of the reason people aren't in healthcare is because the cost to go get educated to do that is so prohibitive and the compensation for it isn't good enough. Like a lot of people don't want to do this work that is obviously deeply needed because they just get fucked. Like there's no reason doctors and nurses and shit should be stressed about like paying their student loans or teachers or anything like that. It's so fucking crazy. Medical is also miserable. It's just so miserable, right?
So, and there's no answer to that. It's a really difficult problem. And there's all sorts of ideas. Like I did a lot of consulting for law firms for a long time, about a decade. And I had a lot of clients who were extremely high-functioning female lawyers, younger ones, trying to figure out how to balance their career with their desire to have a life. Mm-hmm. And, you hear all the time about women being denied access to positions of power.
It's crazy that he's like hearing this and not making the connection to capitalism because it's like literally they keep talking about capitalism, this whole thing.
Power. And that's the consequence of prejudice and oppression. It's like, yeah, everything is caused by the same thing first. Right, you have got one causal principle, wonderful, now you're a philosopher. You can figure out everything with it. It's like the law firms cannot keep their women in their 30s. They cannot keep them, the big law firms. They all leave. Why? Because the women hit 30, they're brilliant, conscientious, intelligent. They were deadly in high school, deadly in university. They nailed law school.
Deadly.
They whipped through their articling. They made partner by the time they were 30. It was like they're in a rocket to the top position. What do they find when they get there? 80-hour work weeks, right? Because that's one of the things you want to think about. You think that the people who run things are sitting at home smoking big cigars and like telling their minions what to do. It's like that's
actually a lot of what happens. Some people are workaholics because they want to be, but this doesn't have to be like this. A lot of people are grind steady, but I mean, mostly that's like Wall Street brokers and shit like that. Like fucking any lawyer who's working that much is working for the state and like has to, and like they're not meeting their bills, or they're just like fucking greedy. You really don't have to take that many fucking cases. It's crazy. Women at 30 and bam, all their skills are reset.
1920s millionaire that's on the cover of the Monopoly game. That's no sociological analysis. I know lots of people like that, and they work all the time, from the second they wake up till the second they go to sleep. And they don't just casually work, because I know some of you go to the library for 6 hours and you say, well, I studied in the library for 6 hours. Like, no, you didn't. You studied for half an hour. And you had coffee and you looked through Facebook and you went home and you said, well, I studied for 6 hours and you're happy about it, but you know bloody well you didn't. Partly because you can't. I can only read for about 3.5 hours till I'm done.
And you see right there, look at that. Like, he can acknowledge that, like, the human capacity to actually toil at something is not, like, super high. We're not very efficient. Like, all studies show that, like, our efficiency starts to really, really run dry around, like, before the 30-hour mark. You know what I mean? Like, we are not efficient people when we don't have the heart in it. Right? There's some people who can really push through and do that shit. They got the Mamba mentality, all right? But I mean, like, cool. That's something you can opt into. You shouldn't have to. And a lot of people are forced to. Like, I was fucking working, 50, 60-hour weeks, going to school full-time, fucking 12 to 14 credits, burning 6 fucking candles at both ends. It's crazy, man. I can't do that shit. No one should have to do that shit. And that's just to live, man. That's just to try to get out of any situation that you're in. You really got to bust ass. It's crazy.
And I'm pretty good at it. So these people who are running things, there's corrupt people, obviously, but the vast majority of them, first, are self-made, and second, they're so bloody efficient and smart, you cannot believe it. And they work 80 hours a week. And most of them happen to be men. And why is that? Because there are a small number of insane men who will do nothing but work 80 hours a week. And no matter where you put them, if you put them in the middle of a forest with an axe, all they would do is run around chopping down trees. So the
I don't really think that's it. I mean, there's some people that really like it. Some people that like work. But a lot of it is the pressure to perform under this current, like, social system, right? A lot of it's constructed. There's some people who really genuinely like doing their work or whatever. And that's great. Super dope. But, like, it's not a healthy environment.
The issue isn't why aren't there more women in positions of power? It's why are there any men insane enough ever to occupy those positions? Because we all
80-hour work weeks, but half of them are at, like, expensive lunches downtown or whatever.
No. And the data on this is very clear. What's the relationship between money and well-being? Once you have enough money to keep the bill collectors from your door, so once you have enough money to stave off misery, which is sort of lower middle class, something like
Yeah, which is stave off misery, which is fucking insane. Like, listen to him. Listen to how he talks about capitalism. He agrees that is just staving off misery, and that is exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. How can you not have any awareness toward the system that you lack critique of when you talk about it like this? This is how capitalists talk about the system.
like that in our society, maybe a little lower than that. Extra money does not help you. It does not improve your life. So why bother with it? Well, that's what the women in the law firms think. It's like most of them, by the time they're in their 30s, are married. Almost all of them are married to men who make as much money or more than they do, because that's what women go for cross-culturally. 4 to 5 years older, equal or higher in the socioeconomic status. So their husbands already make $350,000 a year. It's like they think, well, I don't need much more money. The men use money to keep track of the competition, by the way.
Yeah, this is fucking whack. Like, what a terrible system. I love how they say capitalism is so good, but also those money-grubbing women, they only want men who are top lobsters, of course. What a dummy. Untrue, by the way. Untrue. I could use a sugar mommy. Well, not really sugar mommy. Sugar baby, right? Is that how it works? Rich subs? Is that a thing? How do you become a sub and rich at the same time? That's a very special skill.
Because all the male lawyers that I talk to are usually real hard-ass guys, really low in agreeableness, really high in conscientiousness, like conservative types, low in openness as well. And they want to win. And the reason they care about their damn bonus at the end of the year isn't even so much because of the money, it's because they got a much bigger bonus than the other son of a bitch sitting beside them, and they're happy about that. So there's a real brass knuckles competition that drives these sorts of things. But we get things backwards so often in psychology and in sociology. It's not why there aren't more women in positions of power. It's why do any men want those positions?
Because they bought into the propaganda of capitalism and they believe that they can get out. Some of them can. You'd be the sugar baby that. Well, so, but that's not. But a fin sub, right? That's not even it though.
You just have no idea the amount of responsibility that comes along with that. You just imagine for a minute trying to run a billion-dollar corporation. You can't even bloody well balance your checkbook, and there's dust bunnies underneath your bed. How in the world would you ever run a billion-dollar corporation?
Your checkbook. You don't really. We don't. I mean, you just look at the app. You don't need to have a checkbook balance. You don't need to do that anymore. Have any of you balanced a checkbook? I have balanced a checkbook. They taught us how to do that when we were kids, which is not a skill you need, and it's just obviously math, right? Just math. You have mid-30s Razor. Wampa mid-30s. If you're, there's no way they're teaching fucking Zoomers this shit, right? No way. You don't even really know what that means. Okay, so when you would write checks, right? So I think you have a bank account, and then we have a paper money society mostly, and it's before digital really takes over. So before cell phones really. And you write a check. So say I wrote my check for $50, and then you rip it out of your checkbook, and you give it to the store clerk, and then you go to the back of the checkbook, and it has a balance sheet. And usually it's like, okay, so I have $1,000 in the account, and I just spent 50, so now I have, how much. And then, so you have to do that. But if you don't write it down, and you just keep writing checks, you're not balancing your checkbook. You don't remember it. And then people don't figure out their money. It's literally just look at your balance. It's just a balance. Back in the 1900s. Sounds easy? Yeah, but of course, like, when you're writing checks, instead of swiping a card at the gas station or swiping a card at the store or wherever you swipe your card, you're writing checks all the time. Like, everyone's writing checks. Or they had cash. So it would become not good because you would have to, like, literally walk all the way to the bank to get your balance if you forgot it. So, yeah, it's totally a thing.
Those things are complicated, and you have enemies, and they're trying to take you out.
It's just keeping a running tally, yeah. All
the time. You look at Apple and Samsung, man, they're just torturing each other in the courts nonstop. If you're running a big corporation, you'll be handling 200 or 300 lawsuits at a time. And that's just nothing compared to the complexity of what you actually have to do. Stay on top of the technology.
Echoplex. Jesus. Thanks for the raid. Appreciate it. We're watching Jordan Peterson get upset that women have careers.
Constantly interact with your large customers. Travel all the time because you have to maintain the relationships. You have to regulate the politics inside the business. Believe me, it's no picnic.
Believe me, it's no picnic, man. Running a billion-dollar corporation? Believe Jordan Peterson, who has not done this.
Well, they get a lot of money. It's like, what makes you think that's such a good thing? Like, if you're half crazy...
Oh, it's not a good thing? Then we should let them redistribute it, Jordan. The billionaires shouldn't have to be burdened with billions of dollars instead. How about you just make them millionaires? And it's not allowed to be a billionaire. We just 100% tax. Do you even need 500 million? Really? Do we need that? How much money is too much money? I mean, maybe you can have exactly 1 billion. That's the cap. But even before that, like 99% tax on anything over fucking 50 million. Like, I don't know. Do you need any more than that? That's crazy. In a year? That's nuts. Absolutely insane.
It's cold.
So if it's such a burden, then let us redistribute it. They don't need it, obviously. It's just bad for them. Ivy Faye, thanks for following. You're good for us.
Crazy and you have a lot of money, you're going to be crazy a lot faster, I can tell you that, because it frees you from all sorts of constraints. We know the data on lottery winners. They're no happier a year later, and some of them are done, especially if they had like a bit of a cocaine problem to begin with. Because,
dude, if I won the lottery, I would love to have a cocaine problem after the lottery, because then you got the health care to get fine,
being broke.
Look up Milgram Man from I'm not gonna no JoJo's.
Stops
I'm not gonna JoJo with you guys, okay? You little fellas in your tight pants.
You're a cocaine addict. You get enough money, and away you go. And you think to yourself, you've got all sorts of bad habits and weirdnesses. If somebody dumped an infinite amount of money on you, what makes you think you would unravel completely?
I would not unravel completely. I would definitely be more stressed out, though.
It's highly probable. So, anyway, back to these women.
With that much money, you'd have cocaine figured out. Exactly. It'll bend to your will. Honestly, I'd get a robot ankle. If I had $1 million or whatever, just $1 million. I don't need $1 billion. Just $1 million. Really, 100,000. I would get a robot ankle. I would get rid of the bad stuff and get new ones.
What they do when they're 30 is they look around and they've hit partners, so they've hit the pinnacle of their profession. They think, what the hell am I doing this for? Why would anyone in their right mind want to be woken up at 3 a.m. Sunday by their irate Japanese client who wants them to work for the next 5 hours non-stop to fix this damn problem, which is going to cost them $100 million right now? Or we'll find someone else to pay $750 an hour to fix it right now. And you think, well, that's, a masculine form of value, because that's one of the criticisms. If the law firms just adopted a more feminine structure of value, it's like, what kind of bullshit is that? And the reason that you get up at 3 a.m. on Sunday to talk to your Japanese client who's freaking out about their contract is because if you don't jump the hell up and do it right now, there's some starving associate who's unbelievably ambitious in New York who will pick up the pieces in 0.2 of a second, and they're smart and aggressive, and they'll take you out.
Yeah, he's so worried about other men. They're going to take you out. They're going to hack you up like a lobster, man. They're going to claw you. This is just his top lobster bullshit from his book. This is really stupid stuff. So, acknowledging that capitalism just makes us all crabs in the bucket and makes you do like anti-communal things like screaming at somebody to get some kind of shit done, right? Like, I understand that sometimes you're going to have like some urgency involved with certain endeavors or whatever, but I think we can all agree that capitalism takes it a bit fucking far, and we really don't need to be that pressed about it, and we could just chill a little bit.
So it has nothing to do with masculine structures of values. All the foolish ideas.
Of all the foolish ideas, masculine values. He got sort of away from the point of the video that was the problem with successful women, and instead he got on more of a, it's not the patriarchy that men perpetuate weird capitalism. I don't know. Like, why do they have to be so pressed about it, man? And it's like, he just describes all the bad stuff about capitalism. He's like, they just have to. It's like, no, man, you're choosing to play this weird game. We don't have to play the weird game. We can just, you can still have urgency. You can still get your weird deals done and, build stuff and have some money and I don't know. But I think we can also address people's needs pretty easily. It's obvious we have the resources to get it done. So I don't think we should allow you to play this weird fucking game with money at the expense of people whose needs aren't met. So you only get to play as much as people's needs are met. You know what I mean? Jordan Peterson is what dumb people think smart guys sound like.